Well, let's begin with a look at some political news of the past week before we turn our attention to a lot of new data on the economy. First, former Arkansas Congressman Marion Barry revealed a startling announcement late last week. Former Congressman Barry announced he's scheduled to have brain surgery this Tuesday to operate on a tumor. The news was unexpected and just recently discovered, we're told. Barry's son Mitch said that his father had a hospital stay last weekend in advance of next week's surgery to deal with issues related to the brain tumor. Barry, age 68, was a 7-term Democratic congressman who did not seek re-election last year, and we certainly wish for a good outcome to the former congressman's surgery. Are Arkansans ready for a tax hike to pay for better roads? Well, we're about to find out. A group hoping to promote 2 tax hike proposals for highway construction and maintenance has formed. Move Arkansas Forward is the campaign committee that will push for voter approval of a 5-cent diesel fuel hike and a half-cent sales tax increase in elections that could occur later this year or in 2012. The Move Arkansas Forward committee will have its work cut out. In a Talk Business Hendricks College poll conducted in March, only 32% supported the tax hike on diesel fuel. Just 34% supported the half-cent sales tax proposal. Arkansas's Republican Lieutenant Governor Mark Darr sent a message via Twitter that he's being encouraged to move into the newly drawn 4th Congressional District to challenge incumbent Democrat Mike Ross. Darr, who currently lives in Springdale, could move about 15 miles east into the district into Madison County and set up a 2012 showdown between the first-term Republican and 6th-term Democrat. He told me one way or another he'd be working to defeat Ross next year. Darr also said he's weighing his options on running for governor in 2014. I asked Talk Business contributor Jason Tolbert of the Tolbert Report what he thinks of Darr's options.
I think what you're seeing is that Darr has a lot of options available to him. He's become really one of the rising stars in the Republican Party. And when you look at the congressional race against Mike Ross, for one, other than the incumbent senators and the other congressmen, he's probably the strongest statewide Republican name at this point. And the way that district has been reshaped, he lives just a few miles over from the new part that extends up into Madison County. And I would think he would do very well in that new part of the district. And I think he would do well in South Arkansas in addition to that. So he's looking at whether he should do that or not. He's also looking at whether he may run for governor in 4 years. The thing he told me when I talked to him is he has to be prepared to be governor right now as lieutenant governor because he's next in line for that if anything should happen. So he's already in that mindset of how would I be governor if I had to step into that role. And so once you start thinking about that, it kind of becomes rational that you would look at the possibility of running for governor in the future.
And Lieutenant Governor Darr presides over the Arkansas State Senate, which, if nothing seismic happens, will be led by State Senator Larry Teague, a Democrat from Nashville, Arkansas, who's up for re-election next year. Teague is hosting a fundraiser in the near future, and last week he sent an invitation that included every Democratic state senator and the 15 Republican ones, too. And that stirred a little partisan controversy.
Sure. We have Senator Larry Teague. He's the pro tem designate for this next session. And he faces a re-election in a district that's leaning more and more conservative. So he has a fundraiser coming up trying to shore up support for his re-election campaign. And he had all 35 senators listed on his invitation, which of course included 15 Republican senators. And there was some discussion as to how appropriate it was for Republicans to be supporting a Democrat who is going to be running probably a pretty competitive race this next year. And during that discussion, it came out one of the senators, Jason Rapert, Republican from Bigelow, said he never gave his permission for his name to be on the invitation. Obviously, we know some of the state senators from Bigelow can be very independent-minded, and we saw that here again when Rapert said he was the only one of the 35 that said, I didn't give permission for that, and Senator Teague had to kind of back down and apologize for having his name on there, apparently an error.
Finally, on the national scene, we continue to monitor the ever-shifting Republican presidential field as a number of candidates and would-be candidates line up to take on incumbent Democratic President Barack Obama. Without a consensus candidate, the GOP primary looks like a mess right now. Or does it?
Well, I think you have what happens many times when the the party who's not in the White House is trying to field a candidate. There's not really one established person that everybody gets behind this early in the race. If you had to pick an establishment person, you'd probably go with Mitt Romney. But there's a lot of people that have some problems with Romney, particularly his support of Romneycare there in Massachusetts. And so there's kind of a scramble for who's going to be the other guy, the guy that's going to oppose Mitt Romney in those primary states. You've got Tim Pawlenty, who's been there for a while. A lot of people thought Mitch Daniels was going to get in the race. He has backed out. He's not going to get in the race now. Mike Huckabee's backed out. And now you hear some talk about Governor Perry down in Texas getting in the race. It looks like that's very likely to happen, particularly after Newt Gingrich had a disastrous week. He had almost his whole senior staff resign over how he was running the campaign and some internal disagreements there. So that's going to open a door for Governor Perry. I think you may actually see some of Newt's staff go over and work for Governor Perry's campaign if he gets in. So it's just very muddy right now. It's not really sure who the nominee is going to be. It's going to be very interesting to watch over the next year with the Iowa straw poll just right around the corner and debate actually taking place on Monday night in New Hampshire. As is usual, when an incumbent is in the White House, it becomes a up and down vote on them. And so this will be a referendum on President Obama. I think it will all come down to what the economy does over the next year and a half. If the economy stays bad or even gets worse, it'll be difficult for him to win re-election. But if the normal cycle causes the economy to bounce back, which we all hope it does, but if the economy bounces back and recovers, it may be a smooth sailing re-election for him. So that's really outside of the control over who the Republican nominee is. I think the economy is probably the biggest player in the game as to who's going to be the next president.